In the third part of this video series on the change of voice in English for class 10, I'm going to explain to you how you change from the passive voice to the active voice. In the previous two videos, we've discussed what is active and passive, okay, what's the difference between them, and we've also discussed the change from active to passive. I hope you've understood these two parts. If not, please go and watch those videos because they are very, very important that you understand the third and final part, which is the change from passive to active. Just a quick reminder, the passive voice gives more importance to the object rather than the subject. Okay, so the object is placed before the verb and before the subject in the passive voice. It is also used sometimes when the subject is not known or the subject is not needed to be known. The subject is not important to the sentence. So in this case, the crooks were beaten up by her. What's the action? Beating. Okay, the verb. Who is receiving that beating? The crooks. So the object is come before the subject. More importance is placed on the object rather than who is doing the action. Who is beating? She is beating, but less importance is given to her. More importance is given to who is receiving the action. Okay, in this case you see the new system is implemented. Is implemented is the verb, new system is the object. Okay, what is being implemented? The new system. Who is implementing it? We're not told. Okay, so this is the use of the passive voice. Either we don't know who is implementing or it's not important. The system is more important than who is implementing it. You can go through the other examples on this slide by pausing this video. Now, just the way you transform the sentence from active to passive, we work in reverse. Okay, to change from passive to active, the first step is to check what you're changing. Check the nature of the sentence, and then you have to change it into the opposite one. Quick reminder: passive sentences are marked by the word by. Okay, sometimes you may not find the word by, and it may still be a passive sentence. Okay, that's the case when you have no subject in the passive sentence. So check out for the structure object verb subject. This is also a passive sentence. Okay, science will be taught by Mr. Jacob. This is a passive sentence obviously because you can see the word by. So you can straight away go for the change from passive to active. The first step is interchange as usual. Now you have the object at the start and the subject at the end. So what you do, bring the subject to the start and the object to the end. Okay, now you have the verb which needs to be worked on, will be taught. Now from this you need to split will be. Okay, so the will be is what tense of to be? Future simple. Okay, and taught, you need to find out what is the verb of it. It is the participle of which verb? It is the participle of the verb to teach. Okay, then what you need to do, I'll repeat. Okay, from the passive verb you need to find out what is the tense of to be. You need to find out what is the verb of the participle, and then you need to put this verb in this tense. Okay, so from the participle you got the verb to teach. From will be you found out that the tense is a simple future tense. Put this verb in this tense, will teach. Okay, and that is how you get the answer. Mr. Jacob will teach science. Okay, let's look at the next example. The cats had been chased away by the dogs. Now again you can see by, so it's clearly a passive sentence. The cats is the object, the had been chased away is the verb, and who is doing the action? The dogs. So it's the subject. Who is receiving the chasing? The cats. So they become the object. The first step, interchange subject and object. Get the subject to the start, take the object to the end. Okay, and now when you need to work on the verb, had been chased away, you need to find out two things. From had been is what tense of the verb to be. Had tells you past, this tells you perfect. So you know the tense is the past perfect. Chased away is the participle of which verb? To chase away. Okay, so you found out the tense, you found out the verb. Once you have these two things, very easy, put this verb in this tense. To chase away, you put it in the past perfect, you get had chased away. Okay, you will obviously remove the word by from the when you're making the active sentence. Okay, So you get the dogs had chased away the cats, or in this case away is actually a preposition, so you can move it to the end also, place it wherever it feels correct. Okay, there's a lot of intuition involved when you're doing active passive. So you can either have it as the dogs had chased away the cats or the dogs had chased the cats away. The major thing that you need to work on is how you change the verb. Okay, now just as we had some special cases in the active to passive transformation, the same holds here from the passive to active transformation. Let's check it out. They will be shocked by the developments. By tells you it's a passive statement. So this will be shocked as the verb. Who is being shocked? They. So this is the object. What is causing the shock, or what is responsible for shocking them, is the development. So this becomes the subject. Okay, responsible for the action. The by will go away in the active sentence. So switch, put the subject in front, the development, okay, and put the object at the end. Now this, when you put the object at the end, it will come after the verb, right? Here it's before the verb, so you know the changes. I and me, you remains the same, he to him, she to her, we to us, again you remains the same, and they to them. Okay, you know these transformations. So they is going to the end of the sentence, has to become them. Okay, now work on the verb. Will be shocked. From will be, you need to find the tense. Will be is the future simple. Okay, shocked is the participle of which verb? To shock, right? So put this verb in this tense, you will get will shock, right? The developments will shock them, as simple as that. The crooks were beaten up by her. By tells you it's the passive voice. Were beaten up is the verb. The crooks are receiving the beating, so that's the object. Who is beating? She. So that's the subject. Okay, now you switch, take the subject to the start. Again, it's the same special case, only this thing is the other way around. You're taking what's come after the verb, you're taking it before the verb. So her has to become she. This is pretty easy because you will figure out that something is wrong. When you say the developments will shock they, it sounds wrong, right? So you'll figure out that something is wrong. Same way, you cannot have her starting the sentence, so it will have to be she. Okay, the crooks you take to the end. Okay, now you have to work on the verb. Were beaten up. Okay, so from were you need to figure out the tense. This is simple past. Beaten up, you need to find out the verb. To beat up. Put this verb in this tense. The past tense of beat is not bait and it is not beaten. Okay, the past tense of beat is beat. Similarly, the past tense of hit is hit. There is no beated and bait and hit and had. Okay, beat and beat, hit and hit. Okay, so you're putting to beat up in the simple past tense. It will be she beat up. Okay, she beat up the crooks. So these are the first two special cases. Okay, when you have a subject pronoun in the passive, okay, when it goes to the end, it will become the object pronoun. Same way, when you have an object pronoun here, when you take it to the start, it will become a subject pronoun. Next, the suspect was being questioned by the police officers for over an hour. By tells you passive, it will go away in the active sentence. Was being questioned is the verb. Who is receiving the action? Who is receiving the questioning? The suspect. Who is doing the questioning? The police officers. Object verb subject also tells you it's the passive voice. Now, besides the object verb subject, you have something else happening in the sentence for over an hour. Okay, this is not part of the object verb subject, but it is an important part of the sentence. So you keep it where it is at the end of the sentence. Don't worry too much about it. Just keep it where it is as it is. Okay, you only need to change object verb subject into subject verb object. This much is your job. Okay, so the police officers, get that to the start. Okay, the suspect, take that to the end. The extra part, keep it as it is where it is. Okay, now focus on changing the verb. Was being questioned. Was being is what form of to be. Was tells you past, being tells you continuous. Questioned is the participle of the verb to question. You found the verb, found the tense. Put the verb in the tense. So, to question in the past continuous tense, the police officers were questioning. Okay, and that's your answer. The police officers were questioning the suspect for over an hour. The last special case is the new system is implemented. This is the case where you don't have by. Okay, so this may be a little difficult to detect that it's passive, but you check. This is the verb, this is the object. What is being implemented? What is receiving the implementation? The system. So the object is before the verb. Passive voice. Who is implementing? Not known, not important, it's not mentioned. Okay, now what happens in this case? You will take the object to the end, obviously. So the new system. Now what happens? Can you leave the subject blank like that? No, you can't. Okay, when you're writing the active sentence, the subject is compulsory, so you make up a subject. You can write it as someone, okay, we, the government, the school. You can write anything that makes sense. Okay, something related to a system, so you can write any subject that makes sense. In the passive voice, the subject is not important, the object is more important, but in the active voice you need to mention a subject. Okay, so any suitable subject will do. Change the verb. Is implemented. From is you need to find the tense. This is very simple, simple present. From implemented you find the verb implement, to implement. Okay, so put this verb in this tense. Okay, so if you're putting it as someone, then implements. Okay, if you're putting as the government implements, the school implements. If it's we, then implement, we implement. Okay, so you make sure that your verb is in agreement with whatever subject you're choosing. Make sure the subject makes sense. Okay, that's it from the change of passive to active. I hope you've understood all three parts. The first part being the difference between the two. Second part, transformation from active to passive. Third part, transformation from passive to active, which is the reverse procedure of the second one. Okay, I've made this table for you so you can just revise. This is not something that is to be learnt by heart. Okay, this is something that you can just go through to check that you've got the idea of how you change the verb correctly. The table works both ways, from active to passive and vice versa. Okay, that's the end of this video. The next two slides will have some questions for you to try. If you have any doubts, you can get in touch with me. Okay, you can try these 5 on this slide and these 5 on this slide. That's the end of this video, the end of this series on active and passive. Thank you very much and good luck for your exams.